Sometimes it's just as important to have people in the caucus as it is to have them in the office. Sometimes people have to stand up within their caucus, Democratic or Republican, and remind people that they're there. That when they're spouting off their bigotry and intolerance, they're doing it to a member of their own. Our final speaker tonight is going to be introduced by one of his former colleagues, one of only 6 people to serve openly gay or lesbian in the United States Congress. Like Barney Frank, Jim Kolbe stood before the media and by extension the entire world and came out, told everyone about their sexual orientation. He was the first openly gay Republican to stand before his party's political convention, while some in the audience stood and turned their back, demonstrating their bigotry and intolerance. Neither that day's cruelty or insensitivity, nor his retirement from Congress, have shaken the faith of Jim Kolbe that this is the right thing to do and the right organization to support. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Congressman Jim Kolbe to introduce our final speaker.
Chuck, thank you for those very nice words. Who says bipartisanship isn't alive and well in Washington? I mean, look, coming out as a gay person at a brunch like this is, well, that's expected. You expect them up here to do that. Coming out as a Republican, that's a little harder here. But coming out to introduce Barney Frank, now if I were still in Congress, that would be a career killer for me. So bipartisanship is alive and well in Washington. I arrived in Congress in 1985. Barney had already been around for a few years, and I learned one lesson very quickly in Congress. In fact, it was the first lesson I ever learned on the floor, and that was don't tangle with Barney Frank. I used to come to the floor to debate a lot, my colleagues, Republican and Democrats, on various sorts of issues. But I learned never to do it with Barney Frank. In fact, if I had the floor and I was speaking on some issue and Barney was disagreeing and it would ask me to yield to him to make some repartee, I'd say no. I do not yield the floor. I'd always say I don't have the time to yield. But the truth is, I wasn't going to get into a fight with him because I watched members get sliced and diced and left in little shards and pieces on the floor of the House and usually didn't even know that it had happened to them. And so I wasn't going to let that happen to me. So I always would finish my remarks and leave the floor very quickly before Barney would get the microphone and then proceed to humiliate me, not to go after me. He would not humiliate me. Barney Frank, you have wonderful attributes. You're smart, you're brilliant, he's quick on his feet, he's a superb legislator, he's an effective chairman, he's a great debater, a terrific strategist. There are a couple of things he is lacking. He's never won Mr. Congeniality Award. One would not use the adjective cuddly to describe Barney Frank. Well, I guess, I'm sorry, his partner would use the term cuddly to describe him. He's also never won GQ's award for the best dressed member of the House of Representatives. But on what's important to all of us here today, equality for all LGBT persons, there is no one. There is no one that has been a more effective advocate than Barney Frank. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce a non-cuddly, sartorially challenged, but a great friend of all of us, Congressman, Chairman, Dean of his delegation, mostly just Barney Frank. Barney.